January 25, 2024. The Pokemon Company released a statement. A statement that wasn't that much of a shock, to be honest, but people were still wild about it. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game, blah 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 blah. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets into that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures, blah 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 blah. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon, blah 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 blah. Signed, the Pokemon Company. You know, the same old message that most big companies use about copyright. Blah blah blah, intellectual property, blah blah blah, we'll take action, blah blah blah. But why is it that out of all the Pokemon ripoffs out there, Nintendo decides to respond directly to this one? Trust me, Nintendo would have known about this from day one. This could have just been a way to tell the Poke fans to shut up because they won't stop yapping on about this new game to them. But who could this mystery enemy be? Who could have made Nintendo this annoyed that they released their take on the matter? Or made them quiver in fear as they scramble around their offices looking for a solution to a not so surprising problem centered around their drop in quality throughout the past few years? Well, it's none other than Palworld. With over 7 million copies sold in 5 days since its release, Palworld is a force to be reckoned with. And I'm not saying this as a personal opinion. Even Pokemon's ex-legal chief Dan McGowan said that it looks like the usual ripoff nonsense I would see 1,000 times a year, but he also said that he's surprised it got this far. Okay, I'm not gonna argue the fact that pals are purposely supposed to rip off a Pokemon, because they are. I mean, come on, you've got the designs, the types, the capture method, and for goodness sake, tell me this does not look like Xerneas. But that's the point. Part of why Palworld is so funny is because they obviously took a lot of inspiration from Pokemon, but they just added twists of their own, like advanced weaponry. One major medium that made Palworld rise to popularity was how often content about it was being made. It's a lot. Heck, me making a video about Palworld is free advertising for them, and the amount of content is still increasing as I'm talking right now. It's probably still increasing as you're watching this, assuming the game hasn't shut down. The amount of streamers that play this game could be directly proportional to how similar pals are to Pokemon and the addictive nature of the game. Think about it. If Palworld wasn't so similar to Pokemon, I can guarantee you, other than the fact that it really won't be Palworld anymore, it wouldn't have risen this high in popularity. People play it because its similarity to Pokemon is ironic or funny. But that's not to say that its similarity is the only reason people play this game. Okay, obviously, for a game to be this popular and widely played, the only reason can't just be, haha, it's similar to Pokemon. And that's true. If that was the case, then a million other Pokemon ripoffs would work well too, but, you know, obviously, they don't. No, thing is, Palworld is also very, very addicting. There's a reason why it's this popular after all, and there's one aspect that made it rise up to the top of the rankings. It's genre. See, in terms of addictiveness, one genre triumphs over the rest. One genre is best suited for this. One genre stands on top of it all. I am, of course, talking about sandbox games. Minecraft, Ark, Rust, you name it, sandbox games are extremely addicting thanks to the fact that the goals of the game are of your choosing. And this applies especially to Palworld. For a game that needs a triumph over the behemoth that is Pokemon, it needs an amazingly good reason to pull players back in. Whether intentional or unintentional, they solve that problem by making it a sandbox game. But being a sandbox Pokemon ripoff isn't the only thing Palworld has going for it. The way I see it, Palworld is essentially a mix of obviously Pokemon, Ark, and Zelda or Genshin. It has the creatures of Pokemon, the survival sandbox of Ark, and on to my next point here, the open and immersive world of Zelda and Genshin. Or any other game with an open world map, I guess. I mentioned in a previous video that I made last year, links in the description by the way, that Pokemon's attempt to modernize wasn't handled in the best way. TLDR, Pokemon's jump to 3D was a necessary one to keep up with other games, but was done in the wrong way, such that the Pokemon models somewhat lost their quote-unquote personalities. Just compare any animated sprite from Gen 5 to most of the 3D models now, and you'll understand what I mean. Now, I'm not saying Palworld's models are so much better than Pokemon's. I'd say they're kind of similar in quality actually. But my point is, the lack of personality for the models was made up for by the quality of the world building and graphics. By having Palworld's worlds not be randomly generated and opting to go for a set map with tons of different things to explore, Palworld has solved this problem of having little to no personality by making the world itself be freely explorable, immersive, and buildable. But Noma, Pokemon has cool worlds too. Well, yeah, but Pokemon has linear stories and an unchangeable world, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but lately, dare I say it, Nintendo hasn't even been performing well on that front as well. I don't really feel that magic whenever I roam around in Scarlet or Violet or Sword or Shield. Add that to the ironic truth that is Palworld's graphics, processing, and anti-bug system being arguably better than Pokemon's latest releases, you've got yourself a recipe to make Gamefreak's employees panic, or at least get annoyed a little bit. Overall, one of the biggest causes of Pokemon being out-populariated is the simple fact that they didn't stay up to date with their quality. In a sense, since they ditched 2D, it hasn't really been the same anymore, and it's not just me. There are a ton of video essays about this if you just search, and many of them provide really good points. This caused a very long chain reaction where, at the end of the day, the personality that was once in the sprites and worlds of Pokemon have been reduced significantly. So, what's the problem with Palworld then? There is no problem. It's just over-exaggerated drama made by Twitter people. If Pokemon could have shut down Palworld, they would have done it a long time ago when the trailers dropped, or when it was breaking records in the first few days of its release. If they had to resort to a statement to condemn this, well, I'm not a legal expert, but let's be real. It'll either take a long time for Nintendo to do something, or they can't do anything at all.